All right, good Monday evening, everyone. It is 6:30 on this Monday, November 3rd. What a glorious start to the work week. Tons of sunshine. Good news. We have a lot more of it in this 7-day forecast. Now, I am in for Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich, but if you are missing him, just know that he will be back for the 11 p.m. show and to host tomorrow night as well. The big thing that happened over this weekend was not only the cooler temperatures, it was daylight saving. So we saw our sunset and our sunrise an hour earlier. Our sunset this evening was at 5:27 p.m. This was the first official work day of the new time. So yesterday you may have had a chance, hopefully, to adjust to it, especially with your sleep schedule. But if you didn't, definitely probably had the chance to do so today as well. It did make for some gorgeous sunsets. We had clear blue skies across the Carolinas. So that's definitely the trade-off to seeing now darkness across the greater Charlotte area. And once that sun goes down, temperatures drop pretty quickly. We had temperature right around 67 during the 4 or 5 o'clock hour, and during the 6 o'clock hour we were at 60. So 7-degree temperature drop as that sun went down. And you can see those temps now if you are headed out for any evening plans at 60 still in Charlotte, 57 in Monroe, over towards Cheraw. Chester has officially dropped to 52, 57 over in Hickory. We do have some breezier winds up towards the high country, I will say. So at 40 degrees now in Boone, but there is a wind chill factor as well. So it's feeling more like the 30s, and that's what you'll want to dress like. Again, if you do have any evening plans, the fall foliage is certainly popping off. Everyone is going for fall walks out there. So if that is your plan to do so this evening, just grab that jacket. Temperatures will continue to cool down into the 50s, likely within the next hour. 9 p.m. lower 50s, and overnight hours, well, 30s and 40s to start off your Tuesday. Now, because we'll have clear skies and some fairly calmer winds, this is what's called radiational cooling. That's when we typically see the coldest morning lows overnight with those conditions. In the greater Charlotte area will fall right around 41 degrees, but towards the high country, like I mentioned, they do have a little bit more of a breeze, gusting around 20 to 25 miles per hour, so a little bit more mixing within the air. Patchy frost may be possible in a few spots, but this is just not going to be widespread. Of course, the mountains have already had their first freeze, so growing season is officially over. That is why there are no frost or freeze warnings in effect at the moment. Now, high temperatures will rebound, starting off certainly chilly, but they'll do about a 30-degree warm up going into this next afternoon, near 70 degrees, which is what we hit this afternoon. We were actually right on par with our average seasonable high and low, which I'll show you in just a second, but near 70 degrees. This is just about 2-3 degrees warmer than the seasonable high for this time of year. So 69 for the greater Charlotte area and near 60 degrees for the high country, of course, under lots of sunshine. So weather impacts, chilly mornings followed by mild afternoons going into this work week, but we are tracking some big changes. 2 main cold fronts will be going towards this weekend. That first one is going to bring us a round of rain, likely some scattered showers, maybe a rumble of thunder here or two Friday night. And then the second one, likely coming on Sunday, is going to usher in probably the coldest air of the season. We're talking a winter-like chill for the Carolinas. For now, satellite and radar, we had a low pressure system that continues to pull off to the north and east. Brought a couple of showers yesterday east of Charlotte, and this will continue to push up out of the way, which means high pressure system is going to take over, meaning tranquil conditions expected for the work week. That is a synonym for calm, seasonable, sunny weather. If you have any plans, maybe kind of rake the leaves. I know that is a chore to do sometimes when it is windy and cold. This week is going to be fantastic to do that. Each day a little bit warmer than the rest, lower 70s both Wednesday and Thursday. We've got moderate to high color across the greater Charlotte area. Of course, it's past the peak for the highest elevations, and it's at peak for a lot of the foothills. So if you are headed off to a fall hike, should be great conditions for that. But I do think we will start to see high to peak color here in the Piedmont, that's the greater Charlotte area, within the next week. So fall-like weather ahead over the next couple of hours, but rain chances really slim to none going into this work week. Not really something that you have to worry about grabbing that rain gear or umbrella. Next best chance for rain comes Friday night into early Saturday and will also potentially linger into Sunday as well. So here is that first cold front. This is just after midnight on your Friday night. A couple of scattered showers, like I mentioned, some wet weather expected. But this newest data pulls out the rain chances by daybreak on Saturday, meaning we wouldn't have rain during the daytime hours for the system. That'd probably be ideal, especially if you do have any weekend plans. You want to have something to do Friday and Saturday. That being said, though, the timing could shift on this, so if you do have, again, any outdoor plans, make sure to keep up to date with that latest forecast as well, especially 72 hours before the actual date. So that is the first cold front. That's what's going to bring us the rain showers. Second cold front is going to come through on Sunday, like I mentioned, and this is what's going to bring us that cold blast of air, potentially some upslope flow in the high country as well, meaning some snow flurries also possible up towards the mountains only. So this is what I'm talking about. Low temperatures, mainly in the 40s from now all the way through about Monday. You'll notice we do wake up in the 50s on Saturday. That is because we got the clouds and we got the rainfall moving out as well. Next Tuesday, we fall down into the lower 30s. We'll continue that into Wednesday as well. We'll actually stay into the 30s all the way through about next Thursday. So this could potentially be our first official real freeze in the Charlotte area. So far, our coldest morning low has been about 37. So this is going to be very on par with our average first freeze in Charlotte, which is right around November 8th. So if we do hit that, I believe that would be around November 11th or 10th. So very on season with this time of year. The earliest freeze we had was October 9th, and the latest one was December 10th. Checking in on the tropics, there is not much to talk about. A 0% chance of development going into the next 7 days. Of course, this comes after Hurricane Melissa has officially exited off, but it's looking like it will be a fairly quiet end to the last month of hurricane season, something that we will be discussing in further detail as Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley joins me in just a couple of minutes. But for now, we will be taking a short break. All right, good evening. As usual, I am joined with Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley from our partners in Greensboro. How are you doing, Tim?
Doing okay, Becca. It's the first work day anyway of the daylight change. So I don't know about you. It's I think something everyone's adjusting to, right? And we're kind of, to me, it always seems kind of like the first day of winter psychologically, even if it's not the case weather-wise. But you're kind of in that mentality now where it's already dark when we're doing the 6 o'clock news.
When I was doing the evening news shows, it was kind of hard to sink that in, that it was 5:15 and I was looking at the sun setting and then complete darkness now. And I will say temperatures dropped fairly quickly as that sun set. But I was actually flying in yesterday from Boston, and my flight was right around 5 o'clock, and the sun had already set before the 5 o'clock hour. So a lot to get used to. I know for the kids, you gotta adjust the sleep schedule, for the adults as well. But the pets too. My dog is expecting dinner at 5 p.m. And when he doesn't get his dinner at 5 p.m., then that's an issue, Tim.
You can't rationalize this to an animal. You can't say, well, there's a reason that we're going to adjust the whole time of the world by 1 hour twice a year. Animals don't get that for some reason. I don't know what the deal is there.
No, not at all. Our daylight time now for Charlotte is right around 10 hours, 40 minutes. By the time we get to December 21st, it's around 9 hours, 46 minutes. And then January 13th, right around 10 hours. So we're losing daylight, but, we just got to adjust to it. We've got potentially big winter chill coming. So, it's coming.
Yeah, it's all kind of coming. And Jeb, I've got a graphic for this if you want to pop it up too. I know Becca was saying that the daylight shrinking a little bit for Charlotte. Same thing, no matter where you live, whether it's in Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, New York City, Boston, Miami, everybody's losing daylight over about the next 6 weeks. So it's important to kind of keep in mind that the worst it's going to get if you don't like dark weather or dark sky, dark days. Some people like dark days. The worst it's going to get would be that first day of winter. We call it the solstice, which is about 6 to 7 weeks away right now. So at least these times are all for Greensboro, but minutes similar to Charlotte. We have about an hour left of daylight to lose. And what's always interesting to me, Becca, is kind of how it's not even. So we lose on the sunset side still only about 15 minutes, but on the sunrise side, there's still a lot of daylight loss that'll continue to happen even after the solstice a little bit into the first couple of days of January. So I think the latest sunrise we end up having is still after 7:30. But for the sunset, it doesn't already get that much worse than it already is right now. It's kind of interesting how it's uneven. But the next 6 weeks, very dark. Once you get to February, it's going to have longer days than we have right now, though.
Yeah, certainly have to get used to those 5 p.m. sunsets. You head off to work, or many of us, or people who actually have normal schedules, I should say, 9 to 5s. When they leave from work, it's a bit of a shock to see complete darkness. Yeah. So 5 p.m. sunsets will be the norm. There were a couple of clocks that I had to change. Smartphones, computers adjust automatically, but manual clocks, ovens, cars, certainly something as just a reminder to change as well. In addition to smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, and other safety devices. Our meteorologist, Brittany Van Voorhees, actually did a package on this, and she has more.
Charlotte sunrise will occur at 7:45 a.m. Saturday, and sunset will happen at 6:28 p.m. However, Sunday sunrise happens at 6:46 a.m., with the sunset kicking off at 5:27 p.m. The Uniform Time Act of 1966 established uniform daylight saving time at the federal level. It does give the states options to exempt themselves, but they have to stay on standard time all year round. The act also established the United States time zones, including Atlantic, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. There are many states across the U.S. that have either passed or attempted to pass legislation that would end standard time and keep them on daylight saving time permanently. But this congressional act of 1966 would need to be repealed federally in order for that to happen.
All right, great package by Brittany there. I know it's a very controversial topic, but you know what? we're in the 5 p.m. sunsets boat for a while until anything changes. Well, we'll go ahead and switch gears to the tropics, of course, after Hurricane Melissa has pushed off. Wanted to do a quick recap of the hurricane season so far. So, Jeb, if you don't mind putting up the graphics, we'll show you this. So, we've had 13 named storms so far. We've had 5 hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes. I'd say 3 of which were a Category 5. So this actually made the second most Cat 5s in an Atlantic season since, I believe, 1851. I want to say, most notably, this is also, I believe, we haven't seen a hurricane landfall in the U.S. this year.
That's right.
So that hasn't happened in 10 years, which is pretty stark difference from, I'd say, the last couple of years, but we've still had some damage, and of course Jamaica taking that huge hit from Melissa. Tim.
Yeah, it's really it's hard to just kind of wrap the season up with 1 or 2 thoughts, but it's I think been a bit of an odd season because, you talk about it in a few different ways like you laid out there. We've had only 5 hurricanes, but 4 of those have been majors, Cat 4 or higher. And so just the extremes here of either nothing or boy, oh boy, one of the worst storms you can imagine. Like we saw Melissa. Of course, we had other storms that were maybe not quite as bad as Melissa, but they could have been if they hit land. So you had Umberto that was super strong. You had Aaron that was super strong. A lot of these were pretty deft at avoiding landfall, not just for the U.S., but for other land masses too. It was a very lucky season so far. And we might be talking a little past tense here. There's still some time to do something. But it seems like once you get to November, it does get a little bit harder. But just to your point, you look at the Gulf, there's nothing that really shows up except for Barry, which I was saying to Brad last week, I don't even remember when Barry happened. I guess that was early in the season. The only other storm with U.S. impacts had a huge impact on our area, which was Chantal. And we had horrible flooding in parts of Alamance County and Chatham County between Greensboro and Raleigh. But otherwise, I think lucky is a good way to put this season. But we'll have to look at the climate pattern as to why most of these were recurving storms. You could almost trace a best fit line somewhere between the U.S. and Bermuda, it would seem to me. But again, fortunate to have it when that happens. We hate if there's storms, but we prefer them not to hit landfall if they can be avoided.
The amount of fish storms that we had this season was unlike anything that I have ever seen. I'm not sure if it was just the placement of the subtropical ridge just steering them out, but a lot of things came together, and we did really luck out. Of course, other areas maybe not so much. We're still thinking about the Caribbean and whatnot. It's interesting that the tropical storms probably did the most damage in terms of flooding. When you think of hurricane season, sometimes it's just you think of tropical rain, but you also think wind and storm surge. But with what we saw for the U.S. this season I remember Barry because I was actually in the Hill Country on the July 4th weekend. So it was the remnants of Barry that contributed to some of that horrible flooding over towards the Hill Country. And then Chantal also was a horrible flooding tropical storm as well. So I guess not downgrading the dangers of, we say, there was no landfalling hurricanes, but, the tropical storms can really do just as much damage as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so that ties into that. Remember, July was just, like you just said, it was kind of that month of the flood where we had all these horrible flooding events across the country, and some of them were tropically related. What's interesting, though, is, a lot of our climatology in the Carolinas or in most of the Southeast, a lot of the rainfall you tend to get in August and September or even October tends to be tropically related. And if you take that out of the equation, well, what have we been having? We've been having drought. And so I think there's some element of the lack of hurricanes and the lack of tropical systems that kind of plays into the fact that we've had some pretty dry weather, and we have been in a drought. Not just us, but a good chunk of the southeast and a good chunk of the eastern United States has been pretty dry too, if you take out a lot of that tropical moisture, which is crazy. We've been talking about drought because we did get 10 to 20 inches of rain in parts of North Carolina in a couple of days from Chantal, which is nuts.
I know, and we're in the last month of hurricane season. We are winding down as well. Since Melissa, there has been no tropical development. And even the cold blast of air that, I'm teasing to it now, the cold blast of air that we're expecting to see next week could help cool some of the ocean temperatures as well. More wind shear, so just not as conducive as an environment as we typically see in September as well. So right now, National Hurricane Center, I do have that graphic up, Jeb, is just nothing. 0% chance of development in the next 7 days. I think all of us would be happy to see nothing happen within this last month. That probably won't end up happening, but right now the environment not looking super conducive for tropical development, Tim.
Yeah, and that's good news. That's something we would like to see continue. And typically November, that's kind of the way it usually is. I think on average we get a named storm about once every 2 years in November, so it's not usually super active. Jeb, if you want to switch to mine, I got this, what I call it, looks like a stock market chart to me, but it's frequency. It's when do the storms typically happen, and we talk a lot about this during September because it's the peak. We don't maybe talk about it quite so much when it's over, but here we are, November 1st or something. We're toward the tail end. It's not to say you can't get storms, but especially once you get past November 10th, I mean, the ocean's usually just about done. And if you were to get something at this time of year, Becca, I think it would probably be in the Caribbean again, somewhere similar to where we just saw Melissa get her act together. That tends to be the spot this time of year that you might see anything. But hopefully we're winding down, and that would be just fine.
Yep, and my name was on that list. My full name is Rebecca, so it was spelled the exact same spelling, which is rare. I don't think we're going to get to Rebecca, but maybe that's a good thing.
Just a couple. So have you ever had a Rebecca that you can remember?
There was one, but it was nothing. It was not memorable, which is fine. You know?
Well, you get to stay on the list for every 6 years.
Exactly, I do. That's right.
Something nice.
That's right.
I've never had a Tim, and I don't think it'll ever happen either. That's okay.
All right, well, we'll transition, I guess, to some cooler weather expected. I know we've been seeing some moderate to high color here in the Piedmont area, and we are expected to see that fall foliage peak probably within the next week or so. So this week of sunshine and just mild afternoons, I'd say this is perfect raking leaf weather because when it's windy and it's cold, it's miserable to do. So any fall hikes this week is going to be really great for all of that.
Yeah, the weather this week really looks ideal, right? Sunshine right there around 70, no complaints. I don't know about around Charlotte, but around here, the colors it really has popped in the last 5 to 7 days. And my recommendation to people is if you want to go enjoy it, you want to take that little walk in the park that you like this time of year, do it now. You don't really want to wait a week because not only might the leaves be down and it might look a little worse, but it's not going to be pleasant next week. We have to work out the details of the temperature, but I mean, just looking at that jet stream pattern for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it looks windy and it looks cold. I mean, I think it's going to be a harsh awakening for us.
I think the growing season will be over for a lot of the Carolinas come next week. Our average first freeze in Charlotte is right around November 8th. So this cold blast of air coming next week is pretty much right on par with that. Our lows probably getting down to the lower to middle 30s. That's without factoring in the wind chill that we'll continue to nail down as we continue to see more consistency with this. But it is going to feel like the holidays. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, so people that have been wanting more colder weather, we've got this for you. In the meantime, 40s and lower 50s going into this week ahead. But yes, enjoy this more milder weather because we've got a dramatic drop and change in temperatures going into next week.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think the first time that this is on the table, we always, people might freak out a little bit, or you might see a lot of social media hype. Oh my goodness, you could be in the 20s next week. Well, yeah, it's November now, and like you said, you just said early November tends to be the first freeze for Charlotte. Around here in Greensboro, it's around Halloween, so this is on schedule. It's actually maybe even, if anything, a little bit behind schedule for some. So we would expect this to happen around this time of year, but whenever you get it for the first time, there's definitely some adjustment for sure. And some things you might want to think about, do you have the garden hoses attached to the house still? Anything that involves winterizing, anything where water could freeze, that's something that could happen probably as early as next Tuesday morning, Veterans Day morning. That could be when that first freeze happens for our area. And just say bye to the summertime crops and flowers and those type of things. That's probably over by early next week, it would seem.
Yeah, it's is it the 4 Ps? Pets, plants, pipes. I feel like I'm forgetting what, and people.
Oh,
yes.
People. Who could forget?
I could probably come up
and
with
the pipes will be okay, but yeah.
Yes. It's going to be a shock to the system for many people, I think. But this is, like you said, this is not unusual. I saw this all over social media today. So some of which, the social meteorologists kind of acting like this is, out of the ordinary, but this is right on schedule for us. So just preparing, winterizing your home. Could even potentially see some snow flurries up towards the high country, which probably would be the first of this. It probably wouldn't be the first of its season. I believe I saw a couple of snow flurries. Was that last week up towards the high country?
Yeah, so we had some snowflakes, in the highest of high elevations. So I think the snow level was about 5,000 feet.
Okay.
At most. So Beech Mountain got some flakes. Mount Mitchell had some accumulating snow. Mount LeConte near Gatlinburg got some of that too. But next week, that really is something to look at. Those snow levels could come down. They will come down. I think the question is just, would you have enough moisture? So it probably seems like what we call one of those northwest flow scenarios that everybody in the high country knows about. The cold air comes in, the wind starts to whip, and every now and then you get those snow showers that might be inconsistent. A lot of the moisture from those actually comes in from the Great Lakes, so it'll be something interesting to watch the lake effect snow machine kind of come to life across the Midwest, and it'll just be a different season, and who knows how long it'll last. But enjoy this week while we have it if you like being warm, because next week we might even have daytime highs like in the low 50s at times. So that's
I will also add Beech Mountain does open November 21st for their winter season. So I imagine they'll be making a lot of snow with these colder temperatures. We'll all be looking forward to it, though, across the Carolinas. Thank you, Tim, for joining me today. We'll have Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich back tomorrow.